Great. We're on. We're here and we're live. It's Tuesday evening in October. It's a beautiful Melbourne Tuesday evening. The sun's out still. It was a gorgeous day, not a cloud in the sky. My name's Hilary McNevin and welcome to the next edition of the Worksmith Community Series Talks. I'm the founder of Turnip Media, and on behalf of Turnip and Worksmith, I'd like to welcome you here because we're going to talk about chefs making booze, and I have two fabulous chefs here to introduce and talk to about that. But first, I want to acknowledge there are people here who help us get this show up every month, and that's our sponsors, ALM, Kookaburra, Mercedes-Benz Vans, Square, Zero, and Chef's Hat. I want to acknowledge those guys and say thank you, because we wouldn't be doing this and talking to these two people whom, if I may say, I admire greatly for their cooking and for now what they're doing. There's a little side hustle sip going on over there. Michael Ryan of Provenance and Beechworth Bitters, welcome to the Worksmith Community Series Talk. And Dave Verheul from Embla and Lesser and Saison Vermouth, welcome to you as well.
Hi guys, thank you.
Okay, Michael Ryan, we're going to start with you. Thank you both for being here. Tell us about who you are, what you do, in case we've got some interesting, hospo people watching, industry people watching. And on that note, may I say, please throw in some questions as we're talking, because Michael and Dave are very happy to answer questions as we go. Michael, just a bit about who you are, what you do, and how Beechworth Bitters came about.
Well, chef and owner of Provenance. We've been here for 12 years or something like that. It's kind of scary, but a restaurant, regional restaurant and accommodation that we've been running for all that time, and it's been a fun sort of job and business, but you're always looking for something a bit more, and also a distraction, and so we were thinking we needed another, we call it a side hustle, but another income stream, just something to sort of just safeguard us a little bit. So we looked at a few options and actually looked at the possibility of making sake, and actually got a grant for making sake. And I went down that avenue for a little bit and just decided it wasn't really viable. But at the same time, actually I get confused about all the lockdowns. It was one of the lockdowns. I think
who knows?
I think it was lockdown 4, maybe. Lockdown 2, I don't know. But I had a bit of time, because in the first lockdown, we really worked really hard with our store and produce and everything like that, and takeaway. And in the next big lockdown, we thought we're just going to take a bit of a breather. And I was just sorting out the dry store, and I found some old bittering botanicals that I'd bought probably about 4 years ago to make some cocktail bitters. So I thought, I'll get that project up and running. So I started making cocktail bitters, and Amaro, it's the same process.
Okay.
Cocktail bitters are easier, they're higher alcohol, they're less complex and more linear in their sort of profile.
May I ask, and it might be an ignorant question, is cocktail bitters as simple, when 11 lemon bitters, and we have the famous bottle that everyone sees, Angostura bitters, it's the same concept as that? So
that's the thing, like you could call, like Amaro is the Italian word for bitter.
Yeah.
But we call Amaro, we use that word for Amaro because bitters has kind of been taken for those little cocktail bitters. So so I made some cocktail bitters, and that's still part of our business model, the cocktail bitters. But then from that, I realized, I kind of realized that the next step to Amaro is pretty straightforward, seemingly. And so I sort of went on from there. And so just started very small little experiments.
Okay. And Dave, we'll get back to that. And I'd like to touch on grants as well. When you mentioned you got a grant for sake, and anyone watching, we can talk about grants and funding and things like that. Dave, welcome, and tell us a bit about who you are and what you do, and Saison Vermouth. How did that come about?
Yeah, I'm a chef as well. I've been cooking for 20-something years now, something like that. And it's kind of pretty similar to what Michael was saying. Is I think for me personally, I got into the second lockdown and just kind of freaked out a little bit and just started looking around at things, just to other things that I could do, just to I guess, diversify as well, and do something that wasn't, you know, as exposed as having a restaurant was at that time. You know, it's thinking about it earlier, like it's really interesting, you know, when you work towards something, it's your whole career for a very long time, and then you know, you're forced to close it and just kind of sit idle while things happen around you. You feel it's quite a vulnerable spot to be in, I think.
I was about to say, does exposed mean vulnerable? As in, yes, because that's, you were just,
well, you know, you couldn't really do a lot about it. You know, you flip into a takeaway model, which we did here at Embla, and thankfully that kept us kind of going through all of that, and kept all of our kind of staff occupied and fed and happy. But I've been playing with Vermouth for quite a few years now, and actually serving them in the restaurant. So it all just started, like, I love obviously we all love booze and the odd drink here and there, and I particularly love like bitter drinks and all of the big family kind of surrounding them. And yeah, I mean, it all started with I think I made like a Vermouth made from cherry pits. So they had that really kind of like bitter Noyo, bitter almond kind of profile to it. And then we would serve that. So we'd make it 1 year, and then it would age all the way through the year, and you just forget about it. Be sitting in the back of a cupboard somewhere, and then come kind of late November again, you'd whip it out and serve it with a cherry dish in the restaurant. So it kind of started with that. And, you know, people didn't hate it, which was great. You know, they didn't recoil from it, which is always a positive. So
you didn't get feedback on TripAdvisor about it, so that's like
no, like it went okay. And then you know, there was always kind of like a pipe dream of maybe bringing that to market and maybe selling it one day and turning it into something. And I think it was lockdown 2 that just kind of gave me the kick in the ass to do it.
What is it? I'm digressing a little bit, but I asked both of you, what is it about bitter flavour and chefs or people in the hospitality industry, drinks industry, Michael? Because both of you are,
Well, bitter is it's always an acquired taste, because we're programmed to not actually want to consume bitter things, because usually it's a sign of poison. That's the plant produces bitter things as a poison to stop people eating it. Doesn't stop us, obviously, but so it becomes it's an acquired flavour. So, but like beer, I mean, I don't know if you remember your first beer and going, oh my God, how bitter is that?
I do.
It's always an acquired flavour, and coffee the same. But once you get that flavour, you really crave it. And then,
is it something chefs seek out, particularly, Dave? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think for me, it resonated with my palate, because you'd spend all night eating, you'd taste everything, you're tasting, you get all these kind of like highs of like, you know, you can over a night you consume a lot of salt and a lot of sugar, like tasting through everything just as you do. And not that things are overly sweet or salty, but it's just I think you get to it at the end of a night, and there's a little bit of palate fatigue in there. So for me, it all really started with having something that is bitter at the end of that. This really just kind of wipes all of that away, which is interesting. A lot of why these, it's a lot of why the category kind of exists. Is, you know, you would drink something bitter after dinner to clear your indigestion or something like that, or at the beginning to stimulate your appetite. So
there is a physiological like reasoning behind it, that like, because it's your body assumes it's a poison because it's bitter, you start salivating more and you start producing more bile, because your body basically is trying to get whatever's in you moving through faster. So that's why it's a digestive, because it makes you, you know, it helps you digest faster. So after a big meal, it actually does.
Yep, that's why we
some science.
So we can actually claim that it's healthy.
Oh yeah.
What's that? Sorry, I missed that.
We can claim that it's healthy. There's health benefits.
Oh, that's it. Always bit of Amara and Anino at the end of the night. Yeah, my body needs it. That's the one. And that'll be a bit of Beechworth bitters at the end of the night. Michael, tell us about just those first steps of going, okay, like you said, this is what I'm going to do. And I don't I was thinking just a side hustle, minimize it, because I don't want to minimize what you're doing.
Yeah.
It is another income stream that is valid and is
Yeah.
only going to grow. So,
Well, yeah, it's still very small scale, and it's still
Yeah.
like, and it's at that point where the business, anything you generate just goes back into the business, and
of course,
will be that case for probably quite a few years. But you know, who knows where it will go to? But yeah, it's just it's a enjoyable to use your brain in a different way, I think.
What was the biggest challenge in those first few steps of when you start another business? And
well,
just
obviously it was like
putting it in a bottle, or what was the hard
well, back
bit?
then it was everything, you know, it was all online. So so just lots of research. There's a bit of stuff online about making Amaro, so you know, I'm kind of self-taught in a way, but I just did a bit of research and sort of worked out basics, and then I approached it. I just created a huge botanical library. I had about 120 extracts of, and so some of the blends I ended up making sort of reflected what I had in the garden and stuff like that. And so, you know, whatever I had in abundance at the time, I made an extract. Basically, if anything moved, I just extracted it, or didn't move, you know, anything small, just stick it in.
That's right.
And so I had about 120 extracts, and then that was basically my library. And then I kind of had ratios for the recipe. Like if I wanted something super bitter, it would be like 60% bittering botanicals and 40% non-bittering botanicals. So that was the sort of basis, and then work a recipe from that. And I guess coming from a chef background where, you know, you create dishes in your head, you don't actually have to taste them, you know what they're going to taste like. So that sort of practice through the years certainly helped with that.
What about you, Dave, in those beginning? I know you were saying you started it in the restaurant, but as you started to go, okay, lockdown, here we are. What were those challenges in terms of production and putting it in people's hands?
Yeah, I mean, when you said, Michael, when you said everything was a challenge at the start, I completely feel that. It was just, it was all very, very new. I mean, the first batch, I made 228 bottles, and I honestly thought I'd never ever sell it. No, I had no idea how to sell it either. But I think it was just everything. I mean, for me, it's hard to find any resources, any credible resources online that actually tell you how to make it. I think there are some old, you know, like if you speak Italian or Spanish, you could probably do a lot better in that regard. But most of the stuff that you can find in English is, you know, they do some pretty crazy things, like they cook the wine, you know, and funny things like that. But yeah, it was very much just trial and error. I kind of formed a kind of a rough base kind of percentages and recipe, like Michael was saying, you know, when you're aiming for certain alcohol percentages, and you know, vermouth is, you know, it's stipulated that it has to have at least 75% of the total volume has to be wine, and it also has to have wormwood in it. So you know, there's a couple of variables out already. So it was just kind of just trial and error. I think I tried, you know, 20 different versions of the first summer flowers one that I did, and you know, like every batch you learn more and more from, and you know, things still take you by surprise. But you know, I think the fun thing that all of this is, you know, the best thing out of it has been that it's such a massive learning curve from production.
What made you keep going? So, like, really, because after 10, some people might go, oh, I'm just not getting this. What was it? Time on your hands, or was it just absolute love for the move?
I don't know. I just wanted to. Well, I knew that at that point that I wanted to do this, and I wanted to get it out there and just have a bit of a crack. And it was just refining it, because you know, you'd make one, and then you know, this would be the variable, and then you go back and change that, and then that would throw something else out. So it was just, just learning.
Is that what a chef does, Michael, too, when you're making a dish? Like you're saying, you don't have to anymore cook a dish to know what it would taste like, but is that part of the determination of just going back and trying again, making a sauce better, making a stock better, making a bitters better? Is that part of your training?
Certainly with the Amaro, I went through multiple variations of it, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and even like because we're considered craft, from one batch to the next there can be variation, and that's fine. That's kind of
Does that give you more freedom to play then?
because a lot of the botanicals I'm using are fresh botanicals, and
Yes.
so they're different every year, and you get different extracts and different flavors from them. So I'm trying to, like I say, I make one called Orchard, which is a citrus based one. This next Orchard is you'd certainly compare it to the last Orchard, but it's slightly different in terms of its makeup, which I'm fine with. I'm quite happy with, actually. Can
you tell us a bit more? Actually, Dave, you can, because you were nodding when Michael said it's under craft. What does that, if there's people watching here now that are thinking, I wanted to, I have a passion for a particular drink or something, what does that give you more freedom to operate and create?
Well, for me, that means that ultimately means I don't have to get it crystal clear.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. It's like, so where do you start in getting that kind of qualification? No, a criteria. You sit under a criteria that within which you can operate.
It's a self-imposed kind of thing, but I don't know about Dave, but it's still very small scale and still very hands-on, and like if you were to go up to any sort of slightly more commercial level, it would, there's no way it would not change the product.
Okay, what do you think, Dave, about actually growing? Now, please excuse my hand. There's a question coming in, and my hand's gonna stop, get in the way for a moment. I think actually, Dave, before I ask you, can we throw this question out there?
Yeah, please.
So in the past 2 or 3 years, I'm observing a resurgence of restaurants having a retail product. Last 2 or 3 years, I guess you hope that that's going to happen maybe a little bit, but something to sell which generates income separately from the restaurant. What did Michael and Dave see as the future of restaurant off sales which are not based in takeaway menus or cookbooks? Dave, would you like to go with that one first?
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that we've ever really done. I have seen it done well in some restaurants. Some restaurants have a point of difference, and they can sell a bottle of hot sauce or a spice rub and things like that, and it really actually it sits alongside the brand and does well. But as far as the future, I don't know really that one.
Yeah, what do you think, Michael? What are restaurants going to be doing?
I agree with Dave, because like in lockdown 1, we set up a produce store, and it was great. I mean, we had JobKeeper, so it was kind of underwritten by JobKeeper, and it was great. We ended up with like a produce store at one point we would have had like 30 different items on it, from sugo, pickles, pickled wild mushrooms, all sorts of things, and it was great. There was a lot of work to do. There's no way we could do that and run the restaurant as well. It's almost like another business of its own. And that's why a lot of those sort of restaurants who do end up going down a jarred or bottled sort of thing often is outsourced to a third party, and they do all of the packing and the produce and stuff like that. So,
but wouldn't you have to get to a certain level of production to outsource?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So are things like that a viable incomes?
Deciding, because I don't think a restaurant could ever generate it. I mean, we struggle in the restaurant to make enough like preserves for the restaurant.
Yeah.
Then do it for a retail is another thing entirely.
To be honest, though, I think it really depends entirely on whether it's a product that's driven from the restaurant as a natural extra, or if it's someone else coming in and offering contracts to produce and brand.
So in terms of viability and income streams, and that, where restaurants are heading in terms of how they're going to make money, it's still basically bums on seats, isn't it? And is that a bit of a value add then, what you're both sort of talking about, the preserves or the sauce, or unless you can outsource? But is it value adding? Do you on cost that into the menu if you had?
I think it's experience adding. I think the key thing that we operated, and it's not particularly the food or the wine or the service, it's the experience, and that's what we've all been kind of missing this past year and a half. And I think there are fine dining restaurants that will give you breakfast for the next day in a bag to take home. and things like that, or a playlist to listen to while you're driving home, or or a bottle of hot sauce or something like that. And it's an experience add-on rather than a money making scheme.
So it's all part of a package.
So, yeah.
And okay, well, let's go back to actually production though, Michael. With these challenges in terms of, yes, you said everything at the beginning was a challenge. Look, when I look at labels on drinks and think, and I know people who make drinks like you guys, the detail and everything you have, all the hoops you have to jump through. Where do you start? That? You've made the drink. Like, what happens next?
You start by having absolutely no idea about it. It's probably you have no idea, because if you had any idea of what was involved, you go, I was doing this. And so, like, you make a Maro, that's great. Then you've got to think about the bottles and the labels, and then I have, I buy in grain neutral spirit, so I have my excisable license from the ATO and my non-excisable license for the cocktail bitters.
Oh, yep.
And then I had to get the permission from the council to change my license, because I had to go from a restaurant license to a general license to be able to sell booze.
Okay.
But only
sell booze
not a general license, a manufacturer's license, so I can only sell my own booze. The council are difficult, surprisingly, and and then, like, with the ATO, the record keeping for the alcohol is I'm a bit behind, but it's pretty intense. So yeah, like, once you get into it, like, of course there's more to it than just, I want to make this and sell it, but that's how you start. And
and Dave, you would have had to go through similar things?
Yeah, I think essentially everything that comes down to starting an alcohol business comes back to paying tax.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very, very high amount of tax loaded on the alcohol products. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered, to my surprise, I had a phone call from the ATO, which is never good. Anyway, because I actually entered my first excise return with that actual value, and that was all fine. And then they asked me, do you distill stuff on Amaro's extraction? So I don't distill. And they said, then you have no excise rebate. You can't do any excise rebate, because it's either got to be distilled or fermented. 70% of your products could be distilled or fermented. So anyway, I since bought a still and do a bit of distillation now. So I just put my spirit through a still. It's still a product, but just basically ticking the boxes for the ATO, because it's considerable. The excisable rebate now is 350,000. So.
Oh wow! Okay, so these are all. Where did you start looking, Dave? I'm sure this information is there for everyone, but where did you start looking to learn this stuff? Just the ATO? Do you go there first?
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 licenses, and the main one is through the ATO for accessible spirits. And it really is just reading as much as you can, and just going through everything, and just try and speaking to people, speak to whoever you can, and just talk and read and get a good accountant.
We have a question that's just come up, but let's go back to the money and the funds and the good accountants, because they are priceless. Anyway, Michael, this is for you from Victoria Wilson. Victoria, thank you for watching, listening. We bought some delicious, are they mate, from produce from Michael during lockdown, and it helped us stay connected to our favourite restaurant when we were unable to visit in person. So yes, it was a Provenance experience at home, especially the wicked martinis and pickled pine mushrooms, adoring the Amaros too. Michael, the big question is, do you have enough stock for Christmas gifts?
Well, that's funny. Like during the lockdowns, it was the Wild West, and we were selling martinis and selling pre-batch cocktails. We're not allowed to sell pre-batch cocktails. I'm not allowed to sell somebody else's booze takeaway, because I only have now I only have a manufacturer's license. If you had a general license, you could do that. We don't have a general license, but it was the Wild West, so you could just do whatever you wanted. So no to the martinis, but Produce, no, I really have nothing left. I've got sugo, heaps of sugo, because I did about 500 kilos of tomatoes this year. So,
do both of you? So, is in terms of bitters and Beechworth bitters and Saison Vermouth, are there gifts for Christmas from either of you? Or in terms of the drinks?
Yeah, like my next batch is due out in the next month, because I've done all the blends and the dilutions and sweetening, and they're all ready to bottle basically. So the next batch, which will be going up to, I think I'll produce about 1,500 bottles, will be available before Christmas.
And Dave?
Cool. Yeah, I mean, the nature of what Saison is and how I've kind of set it up means that there's always something new coming. So it's based around French. Saison has been French for seasons. And the whole idea is that you're drinking something that's reflective of the season that you're in. So if it's winter, there's something that's kind of big and dark. And if it's summer, it's like light and sunny and flowery. And spring, it's kind of bright and lively and things like that. So pre-Christmas, end of November, I've got an Americano, which is a similar family to Vermouth, coming out. That's based on bergamot citrus and olive leaves and grapefruit blossom and stuff like that.
That's good.
That sounds wonderful. Where do you get those? Why put those? I mean, those flavors, when you say them, make complete sense. What made you put them together? Just, is it like a chord of music? You sort of want bass and tenor.
I don't know. My head's pretty weird. in my mind, they make sense together.
Yeah.
And they're all ingredients that we've used in the restaurant, so you kind of know and what they taste like and what they sit well with. And like Michael was saying earlier, like we've been doing this for a while now. You know that some things just don't work, and some things will complement each other, and some things will help bring things up and what they'll do to it. So.
But yeah. I think that base note, like I certainly work, like some of my botanicals I certainly see as base notes, some are high notes, some are sort of middle, and like the bittering botanicals tend to be those real sort of deep, sort of mysterious flavors. Often they're quite often flavors people wouldn't be familiar with.
Yes. Can I ask you, I was going to leave this for, I guess we've got 10 or 15 minutes left, but what's a favourite herb or bitter or that you use, Michael, one that you went to immediately when you started this, and one that you've discovered?
For the bittering botanicals, I use quassia, which is on its own the most bitterest thing you'll ever.
What family is that from?
Bark from a tree in Jamaica. Oh. But also dandelion root is delicious, and it's nowhere near as bitter, but it's got a really lovely sort of quite complex, almost sort of bit of fruity flavour. Can
you say the name of the Jamaican bark again? I don't know it.
It's not cassia, it's quassia, Quassia, quassia. And in terms of the non-bittering botanical, I use myrrh. I really love myrrh. Is
that very biblical of you? I'm just having
I was actually going to put out a Christmas Amara. Because I did a frankincense and it was, I probably won't use it, but I thought, frankincense, myrrh, I can do something.
Yeah, go for it. Put it in a little stable. Yeah.
Put some gold leaf in it, done.
That's great. Dave, well, I'll ask you soon about your favourite flavours, but tell us more about the accountant when you said a good accountant. You and I touched on this when we talked about this interview, and even not just the accountant, but having the people around. How do you get the people around you who are good at the stuff you're not good at? Like, do you go through friends? How did you find the accountant? That kind of stuff. Because I think people want to start something, you're scared. And where do you go?
I think it just comes from, like, firstly, probably a point of self-realization of what you are good at and what you're not.
Yeah.
I'm creative and I can make things. I didn't finish high school, so the accountancy side is not my forte. It's always been something that I've wanted to learn, and we've done parts of it with various businesses, but there's a lot of tax involved. I think it's upwards of 40% tax on a bottle, so getting that right and all of the variables that are in there is a little bit beyond me. But so finding a good accountant that's good at alcohol tax specifically is key.
Yes.
Like Michael said, there's rebates that you can get for being a small producer and, you know, doing certain things. So finding someone like that who can kind of guide you through is golden. And then there's all sorts of aspects of it that, you know, like if you don't know something, find someone who's better at it and learn from them or employ them.
I hit up a lot of my friends, Hamish and Rachel have got Reed & Co Distillery in Brighton. Yes. And Backwoods Distillery in Yakandanda, who make amazing rye and whiskey, and I just constantly harassing them. So.
Yes, but I'm imagining you all help each other, because I bet they would say that you help them as well. And I think it's about community. I often find in many talks I have with all sorts of people in this context and others that you create a network, but the network doesn't. It sounds very formal. I think a network. It's community.
It's generally people enjoying what they're doing and they're happy to talk to other people who are doing the same. So.
Yeah, and get a kick out of flavours like that. So, Michael, tell us about, if you don't do great detail, but you and the accountant as well and your financial support team, like, or is that a strength of yours, something you like to do?
Oh, no. My wife is she cooks the books. she's the one who does all of that stuff. She's our business afloat for 12 years. So, yeah.
Go, Jeanette.
Yeah, so I'm terrible at that stuff as well. So, you know, like as I said, like the record keeping for the ATO is really crucial, and I need to be better at it, and I'm getting better at it. And again, I just hit up lead, you know, because like there's lots of different ways to keep records, and you know, it's very confusing, and how you record your alcohol, because it's a different kind of terminology with the ATO. So.
Yeah. When they call you,
again, another learning experience, and it's a learning curve that nowhere near as interesting as making Amaro, but it's still, you know.
Is it as fun? Well, no, it wouldn't be. Is making Amaro as interesting as a really good service and running a restaurant?
Yeah, it's quite different. Like I'm generally working by myself, which I quite like anyway, but it's quite a different experience, but equally enjoyable, I'd say. Yeah.
What about you, Dave? Tell about, is there a solo element to making Vermouth, or do you have people around you doing it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely solo. I tend to bring some of my team in, and we have bottling days, which is a whole lot of fun. We'll cook a big lunch and just try and bottle and label and package everything on the same day, and just do things like that. So
we have citrus peeling days, which they just love.
How much citrus gets peeled? No, like
it's interesting, the non-glamorous side of this. You don't realize how much repetitive work there is,
which is just like cooking. You know, it's the same.
Yeah.
Is there the difference between, there's a difference in timing. When you cook a meal for someone in a service in a restaurant, you can see or hear pretty quickly if they like it or don't like it, and it create an experience for them. There's delayed gratification, reaction. Is that hard to, you send your drinks off? Did that challenge you initially in terms of what you think people are going to like, because you're so used to knowing really quickly if people like something? Dave?
That's actually a really good point. That's something that I found one of the big things to try and kind of work with was that in a restaurant you do plate something. We have an open kitchen. We can see people whether they're having a good time or not, whether they like something or they don't, whether they're actually eating it or not. So making something like this and then sending it off into the world is a very different experience. And just one thing that I've been trying to learn, and I haven't got it right at all, because I'm by no means a marketing type person, but is creating the kind of the language and the brand identity around that and what it is, because you look at some brands and everything is so fully formed, and they have a marketing PR person, they're pushing everything out, and there's a story, but I'm not the most fluent communicator in that regard. So creating the identity for that has been quite a learning experience.
Yes, I'll bet. And also, yeah, and an element of letting go, because you let go of a dish every night in service. But what about you, Michael? How do you manage that emotional kind of connection to a product?
Look, I was actually, like, I made, the first batch was pretty small. I made about, over the 6, because I got 5 Amari and 1 liqueur. Over the 6 blends, I probably should have started with less, really, but over the 6 blends, I made about 900 bottles. I thought, am I going to sell these? Anyway, I had to, like, in the end, kind of start rationing them out, because there was a lot of interest from some restaurants and some liquor wholesale retailers, and then the mailing list as well, which has grown to quite a size. So I, in the end, was a bit worried, because there was a lot of interest. I was surprised how much interest there was. So in the end, we sold out pretty quick. And so now we've got to look at the moment with the setup we got now. I don't think I'll ever exceed supply. So, it'll always be about demand. So, which is probably a good way to be, but not particularly a great financial way to be. You kind of, I could make a whole lot more and possibly sell it, but I'm not in a position to do that at the moment, because that's the, if I'm going to look at upscaling this business, which I think I will, it will just be gradual steps each way. Each time I'll make a slightly bigger batch till I get to, a level that might be slightly more commercial, I guess. But who knows?
And do you have, or Dave, on that note that Michael's saying, is that something you consider, and is there like a 2-year plan, a 5-year plan? Do you, in terms of the people you work with, is commercialization of Saison on the cards anytime?
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever had a 2 or 5 year plan in my whole life in any kind of anything, but
I heard about them recently. I thought I should ask.
It sounds really formal and serious.
There's an idea.
Yeah, I mean, Saison is growing. It definitely is. I've got a little corner of a winery now, which is great, and it's going into places I never thought it would, which is amazing. And but I don't want it to grow. I know it's interesting. It's not a problem I ever thought I'd have, to be honest. Like, I never thought I'd sell the whole lot of the first batch. I thought I'd be left with it, and I would have to put it in a spritz in the cinema over last summer and just get rid of it.
Yeah.
In case no one liked it, cover it with gin and some fizzy things. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely growing. I want it to grow with the integrity of it still being small and handmade, though. Yeah. I don't want to lose any kind of connection in that regard. I want it to still be kind of fun and fluid, and not just do the same things every year. And just I mean, to be honest, it's a work in progress. I'm just trying to feel out what feels right for me and it, I guess.
Yeah, certainly. I think I would love to get to a point where I'm producing enough that I might need to employ, 3, 4, 5 staff or something like that. But I can't see it getting much bigger than that, because it's still pretty niche anyway. So,
Yes, it's an exciting time though, because I think if it's that constant challenge in terms of art, music, food, anything, to the challenge of the artistic integrity and the commercial, and maintaining both, I think is that maybe that's about bringing more people in. Maybe it's just, or advice, or just staying true to yourselves. What would you say, Michael, because we'll wrap up in the next few minutes. So send through any more questions if anyone would like to. But Michael, hit them up, because they're here and they've got stories to tell. They're good for a chat, these two. And but if we've got chefs, hospitality, front of house, doesn't matter. Someone just watching going, I want to make a drink. And we've got a question that's come through. Okay, we're going to come back to that in a minute. Dave, what's the difference between Americana and Vermouth? Yeah, there's a question.
Vermouth, Americana is 2 things, but a Vermouth has to have wormwood, and Americano is bittered with gentian root.
Gentian root. How do you spell that?
Yeah, my pronunciation is probably slightly dodgy, but it's GENTIAN I-A-N.
Oh, sorry.
Gentian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Forgive me. Yeah. And so Americano has to have that in it.
Yes.
Like it has wormwood.
So I mean, there's a whole family of these kind of bitter drinks, and they're all just based on, one is a major, the bittering component is rhubarb root as its main cause. Some, they're all different things. One, another type is bittered with artichokes. So yeah.
Yes, gotcha. So it's just, did you imagine you delve into that world of Gentian root and think, was that part of, is there, like you say, there's no plan, but you just start to go, okay, I've read about this Americano, I'm going to make that.
I mean, I love Cocky Americano. The Cocky Americano, Rosa and Bianca, are like two of my favorite drinks of all time. So
yes, beautiful.
This one is nothing like that. I wish, but it's a fun family to play with.
What is actually on that? What's your favorite way to drink vermouth?
Straight out of the bottle. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. It depends what it is, to be honest. Some things love just tonic. Some things love to be straight. Some people are very good at making very clever things out of it. Like the things that Luke down at Birdie is doing with some of these are just amazing, and they're completely out of my skill set. So yeah.
Oh, but yeah, not forever though. That's for sure. And Michael, what were some of we've got some questions coming through. What were some of the surprise botanical discoveries across the 120 you have that are perhaps unique to you? Like are you using anything that no one else is?
There's nothing.
Well,
nothing original.
No, but
I've got a Sancho pepper tree in my back garden, which I use, which is just doing the kinome at the moment, which is one of my favorite times of the year. And so I did a Sancho pepper extract, and that goes in my vegetable-based Amaro, which is really delicious. Dill flowers is very important. I did some elderflower and elderberry, both really good and both so different. And all there's so many citrus up here. All the bergamot, yuzu, and kinoto are really important. Yeah, lots of them actually.
Yes, you've got to use your cello. Can you just tell us about that? Because that's not an Amaro, is it?
No, that's the liqueur. So it's like there's an 1800 tree orchard of yuzu orchard up here. So there's a lot of yuzu I can get access to. So I thought I'd make something a bit. I mean, I don't drink limoncello, but a lot of people do. So that's fine. So I made something that. But I wanted to make it a bit more complex. So I added some lemongrass and some linden flower, some osmanthus, and some jasmine as well, just to sort of make it a bit more interesting.
What's osmanthus? And please, everyone watching, forgive me for my ignorance on some of these.
It's a little flower from a tree native to the Himalaya. It's used in tea, in Chinese tea as well. And it has like a peach lychee kind of flavour.
Are they hard to access here, or do you just buy them?
I get those are obviously anything from overseas, all of those sort of things, even like gentian and burdock and horehound and all of the bittering botanicals tend to come in dried, and they tend to come from various countries, but I get them mainly through main suppliers like Austral Herbs and stuff like that, who supply all the gin distilleries and all of that sort of stuff. So it's a mix of imported botanicals, but also accessing all of the fresh fruit and herbs and citrus around here, which is kind of what Amaro is in Italy. Like it's a mixing pot of all the influences of Italy, all in a bottle, basically. So
certainly is. And Dave, what wines are you using for vermouth?
I use predominantly Moscato from a little family-run vineyard up in Rutherglen.
Yes.
I wanted to use Moscato mainly because of Cocky Americana Bianco. That has a Moscato d'Asti base. And for me, I wanted wine that was, it kind of like it spoke of the sun. It was like floral and bright. I also wanted something that had high residual sugar in it, so I don't have to sweeten it at all, or only a tiny little bit. and then something that actually has a really low ABV already. So that means that I can put more flavor via all of the infusions that I put into it.
Right. So is that only that wine that you use? Like that particular grape? Do you use any other wines? Some, I guess, you know.
Just that the Bergamot Americano has a Riesling base. So
Okay.
the spread that I'm coming up with.
And do you think, like Michael's making liqueurs and as well as the Amaro and the bitters things, do you think you'll go into a land of not just Americano and Vermouth? Is there more booze in your day, Verheul?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of funny. Like when you have chats like this, there's a little bit of imposter syndrome because I'm not a winemaker, and I would like to make the wine and just have the whole circle in house. And that's definitely something that I'll get towards. It's not my skill set at the moment. There's so much to learn. Yeah, definitely other booze. I don't want to distill anything. But yeah, never say never.
No, it's an adventure. And I think you open the door to something like you both have. And as you both have said throughout the talk today, you never stop learning about it, especially when you find a subject that you love greatly. And just going back, so I'm sorry I sort of jumped around a bit then, but when I asked you a question, Mike, we had some questions come through.
Sure.
But Michael, just I'll ask you both this, just advice or anyone, you know, industry focused who's thinking of creating another revenue stream. What do we suggest to them?
It's a difficult one because like for me anyway, it was almost a spontaneous thing. It wasn't. I said I was looking for another income stream, but it took a long time to come across it, and I just kind of fell into it really. Like I didn't think I was going to make Amaro.
Yes.
Amaro kind of happened from another thing, but look, I think whatever you do, just kind of start, and especially for most restaurants, they're not huge money making schemes. To start small, and just sort of slowly build up on it really. So because whatever you do, there will be investment as you get slightly bigger. So you've got to keep that.
Can we touch on something we touched on earlier? Is it worth going for a grant? You got a grant for sake, you said before.
Look, yeah, that was there was a craft artisanal grant or something. I applied for it. I think it was before COVID. Can't remember. Yeah, it was before COVID. And anyway, I was rejected. But then I got a phone call on a Tuesday night at about 7 o'clock, at about 2 days before the end of financial year, from the Department of Ag saying, "Do you still want that grant?" I went, "Yeah, sure," because obviously they had a budget to fill. So and that grant was to make sake, which I certainly went down that path, and I tried, gave it a good go, but it had I felt quite a few limitations for me anyway, so I didn't continue. But yeah, so
they're worth seeking out.
Sorry?
A grant, it might be worth seeking out if someone's.
Look, yeah, I mean, like especially in the current climate, the government knows that everybody's suffering, and so they're certainly looking for ways to help small businesses start and existing businesses continue. So there's certainly stuff out there. So, but it's a laborious process. Grant application.
I'll bet. Oh, yes, I have gone down that road a little.
Yeah.
Dave, what about you? An advice or just some tips on? Do you want to get what you're doing, or where would someone start? What should they do?
I guess it's just finding something that kind of sits with your skill set that is presented in a different way, I think, or that's something that you're actually just passionate about. Because I think you have to love what you're doing to have the motivation to work your absolute ass off to make it happen, and to persevere through all the things that you need to get through to actually get something to even possibly work. So
yes,
yeah, find something that you like doing, and then just don't take no for an answer.
And never stop asking questions. I think when you're saying imposter syndrome, you're going to have that sometimes, especially if you're starting something new. Or you're going to have it a lot, especially in the beginning, and just think, I shouldn't be here. What do I know? And just dive head first. Don't listen to the naysayers.
And just talk to as many people as you can.
Yeah. And I think back to Dave's point where he said there was no information in terms of making vermouth, and I had a similar thing with Amaro. In some ways, that was a bit of a benefit because he kind of I certainly went down my own path and produced something that, you know, traditional Amaro makers would not make, but, you know.
And Michael, one last very quick question. Where can we buy your yuzu cello? And that's not just from me. Someone did send that through, honest.
So I do have a website, beechworthbitters.com. There's none available on the website at the moment, but I'm about to bottle, actually cold filtered it today. So I reckon I'll get about 300 bottles. So that will be released on the website. But I will keep because there's a fair bit of interest from, as I said, from restaurants and stuff. So I kind of like seeing it in restaurants that I like and restaurants that I really like going to. It makes me feel. I went to Bar Midland in Castlemaine.
Yes.
They bought some of our Amaro, and it was a great dinner. I loved it. And he made a really good hanky-panky with the up to 11, the Fernet I make. So yeah, that was really good to see.
Oh, fantastic. Where do you bottle, just by the way? I should have asked you. Yeah. Where's
I used to do it at the restaurant. First lot I did at the restaurant, it was just crazy. Like the pastry kitchen was just full of extracts and the pastry chef was getting very cranky. And then upstairs I was just busting at the seams everywhere. But as with Dave, I found a spot at a winery and I've moved out there, so I'll be bottling out there.
Beautiful. And Dave, tell us a bit about where we can find you and Saison. And do we keep an eye on the website for availability of stock?
Well, I'm not organised enough to actually have a website yet.
You've got an Instagram page, I think, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, best is either Black Arts or P&V if you're in Sydney or Melbourne. And then there's, lots of other places as well, but they do great online. So.
Well, I've known you both for a long time and I'm both really proud of you and excited for you. And I look forward to what the future holds for Provenance and Beechworth Bitters, for Embla, Lesser and Saison Vermouth.
Well, when I'm back in Melbourne, I'll come down, we'll do a tasting. How's that?
Everyone, that's on the record. And Dave better be there and the Worksmith team better be there.
Book me a ticket.
Yeah, it'll be a long tasting. But look, Michael Ryan from Provenance and Beechworth Bitters and Dave Verheul, Embla, Lesser and Saison Vermouth, thank you both so much for your generosity and your time today. I've learnt heaps. I've got notes for days here and I want you to make the drinks. So I'm not going to make the drinks.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, it's very easy talking about stuff you love. So yeah, thank you.
Isn't it? We can just jump into it. We could be here for another few hours. But on behalf of Turnip Media and Worksmith, and also from ALM, Kookaburra, Mercedes-Benz Vans, Square, Zero, and Chef's Hat. God, it's a list, but it's a good list. Thank you all very much for being here today. And we will see you next month. Take care. Michael and Dave, thank you again. And cheers. Bye, everyone. Thank you for being here. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.